All right, guys. I'm sure many of you guys probably read books, and I'm sure there's probably a small handful of you guys, hopefully it's like a double handful, that read every day. So I have this philosophy to read a book every day. And what I mean by read a book every day is not literally reading from, picking up, open up the cover, and reading every single page until you get to the end. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about actually just reading every day, at least one book, which can be as simple as one sentence. Like for me, for example, and the reason I'm even making this video right now is just to explain how I read every day. So right now I'm reading Life is a Series of Presentations by Tony Geary. And I bought this book, I can tell you exactly the day, on August 17th, 2013. The date is right there. Kind of a funny coincidence that yesterday I've had this book for 3 full years. And I've read it completely once, and now I'm about, 55 pages into the book. And just now I flipped to the page that I was on, which is a random page that I flipped to, and I read one sentence. We don't need outside influences or foreign objects to change our mental state. We can do so merely by changing our physiology, our posture, breathing, or biochemistry. So that's how I read. Bam, I'm done. I can throw that thing down. I'm not going to read that for the rest of the day, probably, because that one sentence has got my mind thinking for the rest of the day. And that's how I see books as. They're just a gateway to get you into a state of mind or a thought process or anything along those lines. See, the goal of reading isn't just to finish the book. The goal of reading is to become inspired and evolve your consciousness and change the way you think about things. So sometimes all it takes is one sentence, and then that book has kind of done its job. So, that's pretty much with any book. I love to just pick up a book. I'll do it right now. I'll flip to one page, and I'll read this. By turning unknown quantities into known quantities, we can overcome the anxieties and uncertainties that undermine any presentation. All right, cool. So how would that relate to me, right? Well, that one sentence means to me right now, I'll look at that in terms of measurable results towards a state of being that I want to achieve, right? So by turning unknown quantities, which would just be the end result, right? I want to increase my happiness day to day, whatever. That's an unknown quantity of action steps, right? But by turning them into known quantities, we can overcome the anxieties and uncertainties that undermine any presentation. So those known quantities would be looking at a plan. Okay, how am I going to be happier every day? And then breaking that down into known quantities of steps to achieve every day. So I know that to be happier every day, I need to do things that I enjoy that are on my time. So a huge part for me is my morning routine, making sure that I dial in my morning routine every day so I'm in that happy state to begin with. And then through momentum carried out through that morning, I continue to build on that happiness throughout the day. So, that's pretty much how I look at books. I collect them. I read 8, 9, 10 books at a time. And sometimes it's literally as simple as opening it up and reading one sentence and being done. That's it. I don't even have to read them in order. I read every book I have from front to back in order. But a lot of the times, I'm just using it for the sources of information it has, because books have a beautifully magical way of giving you exactly what you need to know on their own. So, that's a quick thought.